bring women together so that they don't have to do it alone, so that they can hear that another mom had a wild, intrusive thought too. And just having that feeling of, oh, like you've had that kind of thought. And I know you never want to hurt your baby and you're terrified by that thought. And I'm not the only one that's had an intrusive thought, and you're also a believer and you love the Lord and you believe scripture and you're still anxious, that can make anyone's shoulders drop.
Hey, housewives, come on in. You know the dirty dishes are still in the sink from yesterday and the laundry is still in the basket. Pop your AirPods in and make yourself at home here.
I'm Tracy.
I'm Tori.
And we are your unlikely housewives. Stepping out in faith and believing that God calls the unlikely, we are here to show you the appreciation and validation you deserve, lead you to authentic relationships, and release you of believing the cultural lies to restore your faith and wellness.
Pull up those high-waisted yoga pants, tighten your top knot, and reheat your coffee for the third time. Turn up the volume, and let's go. Hey, housewives.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back, housewives. We are here again, and we have got a little different setup here for you. Again, we are at separate locations, but technology is amazing. And so with Tracy at her house and then me, in the living studio. Living studio. Yeah. We live with that. So here we are. So thank God for technology. But we have an amazing guest for you today, and I'm going to have Tracy introduce her.
Yes. Well, today we have Emma Donaldson with us. She is a licensed professional counselor and perinatal mental health specialist who supports Christian moms in the postpartum season. She helps new mothers understand postpartum anxiety and depression, emotional overwhelm, and intrusive thoughts, offering support that honors both their mental health and their faith. All right. Welcome to the show, Emma.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. You guys are fantastic. We've already just been cutting it up. So I'm excited to do this with y'all.
Exactly. Now we're going to be completely serious and no more funniness.
Right. Just straight business. It just doesn't work with us.
Yeah, exactly. Straight business. He says no one ever. Oh, man. Okay. Remind me, did we connect with you on Podmatch? Was that one? Yes.
Yeah, we did. Yes.
We have to give another shout out to Podmatch because, oh my gosh, Podmatch has just been the greatest connector for us. And not only are we so thankful for the opportunity to be on Podmatch's network, but also the fact that we get to meet amazing guests like yourself. And so if anybody else is listening and is thinking like, you've got a podcast with guests, check it out because Podmatch saves us so much time as hosts that we get to enjoy so much more. I mean, for every guest we used to have to schedule to interview, we'd have to do 3 or 4 hours of background work. And now it's like Podmatch saves us all of that time and we get to do more interviews and more talking and more episodes. And that has been such a game changer. So I just want to give a shout out to Podmatch. Link is in the show notes if that's something you're interested in.
Okay. Yes. Okay. We'll start Emma by introducing to our listeners a little bit about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Emma. I live in Georgia. I'm a wife and mom of 3 very small children whom I love so much and keep me on my toes, keep me humble. I'm also a licensed counselor, so that's what I do for work. And I love it. It's great. It's one of those professions that when I first got into it, I thought I'm going to, see a ton of clients every week and I'm going to build a private practice and do all of the things. Never envisioned being a stay-at-home mom or staying home part-time with my kids until I had my first child. And then I was like, oh, you're so cute. I can't leave you, It just was like, maybe I don't. Well, I do want to work. How can I? So anyway, it was just God's provision in matching me with this career because it's one that can be very flexible. I was able to shift from working several days a week to dropping down to a couple days a week. So I was able to kind of do a hybrid model while my kids were like very small, like baby age. So I could be home with them more. So it's great. I love it. 3 days a week I'm on and in therapist mode. And then the other days I get to be with my kids. Then it's awesome. It's a great balance.
That's awesome. Now, this space, when you are helping the postpartum mom mental thing, that was a space that you entered into before you became a mom, correct?
No, actually, I was a trauma therapist.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So I was a counselor before I became a mom, but I specialized in trauma for several years and was a part of a great group practice where I saw clients who oftentimes had childhood trauma. So they were adults recovering from that. And that was great. I felt like I had the capacity for it. And then I became a mom and it started to weigh on me a little bit differently than it did before. I think that's one of those things about motherhood is your emotional bandwidth. It gets stretched, right?
Yep.
More people needing you. And so I noticed that shift for me personally. But then also, I also noticed like I was starting to just experience more anxiety and was checking the monitor a lot and was making sure baby was breathing and just started to pick up these, kind of quirky things. And I remember bouncing it around to some mom friends, even friends that were therapists already. And they're like, oh yeah, just kind of how it is. Yeah, you have think about your child falling down the stairs all the time. Just kind of how it is. Yeah. You just want to, it's mom gut. Like I heard a lot of it normalized, but it got to the point for me where I was like, I just don't think this is normal. I don't feel like I'm functioning the way that I want to function. I feel like I'm on high alert all the time. And this feels different from generalized anxiety. It seems to be all specific to my child. And so anyway, I was already in therapy at the time myself and was able to work through some of it with my own counselor. But I really started to get into this. I think there's something specific about right after you have a baby, this postpartum phase. And so I was like, I'm going to learn more about it. So I found a couple books. I found a couple continuing education courses to take. That led me to finding like a certification so I could get certified in it. And bring that into my counseling practice. And that's when I started to shift seeing pregnant and postpartum women and then seeing couples where the wife was either pregnant or postpartum. Because I think a lot of amazing therapists can miss that. They may be able to identify other things that are going on with a client, but if they're not trained to think about the postpartum brain and the pregnancy brain, or they might use their own experience and chalk it up to be like, this is just kind of how it is.
Yeah.
And so, I wanted to be able to like do that well for my people. And so, yeah, transitioned into seeing all of that for my clients, opened up my own practice 3 years ago and been doing it ever since.
Wow.
That's awesome. Do you do telehealth as well?
I do. I'm actually only telehealth right now. So I went from seeing both in person to telehealth to now completely virtual. And to be honest with you, I've had clients tell me like, whenever you do go back to seeing people in person, I'm not going to come see you because it's just too convenient to do the telehealth, especially for new moms who are already working around nap schedules and all the things. So
yeah,
that's what a blessing for both of you, like your job and the new mom to like still be able to get service, but it's okay. I have an hour nap time or my husband gets home and this works and can hop on a call. That's actually really awesome.
This is just something that COVID, I mean, it seriously brought out like when while I don't think I want to see a professional for a sore throat, like via telehealth, that seems dumb to me. But like having a counseling session, that's like, oh, okay. These are things that we can talk through and I can say, but versus, a doctor just saying, well, I think you have strep. Well, gee, thanks. That, it isn't, it's dumb. But technology is definitely amazing. Again, the fact that we're Tracy and I are less than 5 minutes apart from each other and we're in recording mode.
Yeah,
still can make it happen.
That's incredible.
So
thankful for that technology.
Yes. Okay. So now part of this is hormones, right? Mm-hmm. So I know we discussed when we had our little meet and greet episode or moment with you, we discussed part of it being hormonal. How do you work through that with new moms or, pregnancy? Because it's like, the hormones aren't the same. I mean, they just shift over and over. How do you kind of work through the hormonal piece of that with the moms?
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually, like one of the biggest hormonal drops that we experience as women happens at that postpartum period, or right after the baby is born. And so I think it's like 80% of new moms will experience what we call baby blues, which is different than postpartum depression. It's them crying for what feels like no reason, feeling really low, feeling really down, not feeling connected. It can really mimic those symptoms of postpartum depression. But we know it's different because oftentimes the onset is like 3 to 5 days postpartum, and that will tend to clear up on its own around 2-3 weeks max postpartum. And so being able to even just normalize that and tell like a client that I'm working with while she's pregnant, it is likely that this will happen to you. And if it does, it is largely driven by hormones. It doesn't feel any better, but at least you know that you're not, crazy. You're not going crazy. Nothing is terribly wrong with you. It's natural. And we want to make sure that you have margin in place so that you can care for yourself well during that time. Maybe that's not the time that you want to have, 10 visitors over at your house to meet the baby. If you feel like you're sobbing and you're still in your diaper, that might not be the time. And that's okay. And I think that permission piece is really important because,
yes,
and I'm sure you guys know this as moms, especially when it's your first, you have your expectations for what you want, and you have family and their expectations, you have friends and their expectations. And a lot of times it's very reactive. It's, well, I feel like I have to just do what everyone around me is saying I'm supposed to do or I want to do. And so then they step it. They have those emotional experiences, like I said, that are largely hormone driven. And then things get exponentially worse. So I think that's one piece of it. I think the other hormonal piece is, even though that's the biggest drop, that doesn't mean that your hormones have gone back to quote unquote normal or baseline after that. They're still doing their thing, working out, especially if you're breastfeeding too. Lots of ups and downs there. The sleep deprivation, that impacts your hormones. And so seeing some moms 4 or 5 months postpartum, their expectation of I should feel this way is so far from the reality of what their hormones are at. And having someone say, yeah, it makes sense why you still feel like you're on the struggle bus because you are, can be a huge sense of relief.
I think it's so crazy how many appointments you have, right, in your prenatal, like pregnancy and prenatal appointments. You have all of them. And very rarely, I mean, I had 4 kids, and I don't think I was ever talked to about how I would feel after I had the baby. There's no preparation about what you're going to feel with the baby blues or the postpartum or the sleep deprivation. And I remember it being, and again, this was a decade ago and before, but there wasn't as much conversation around being a mom that feels this way, that has anxiety and depression and all that. It was almost taboo to say it, because you're like, oh, you should be grateful that you have a baby, a healthy baby, and all the things. And you're like, I remember when I went through it, I had postpartum twice with my 4. And both circumstances were very much that, the expectations that everybody else puts on you, that you put on yourself, and, socially, culturally, whatever you want to say. And then going, wait, maybe I'm the crazy one, maybe something's wrong with me. And so I was someone who I really struggled with it. And I thought I was going to be natural, it was going to be natural to take care of it. I loved kids, I loved babies, but little did I know how much my hormones would go all over the place, because it absolutely was for me, because I'd be fine and then I wouldn't be fine. I'm like, I haven't done anything different. I'm sleeping, I'm eating, so wrapped up in it. And I remember those feelings like it was yesterday.
Yeah. Because it sticks with you. And I think in addition to the hormones, it's also your nervous system. It's being rewired, to care for this very small, helpless little person, which is how God designed it. So it's good. But I think when we don't honor that newborn bubble and we try to throw things into the mix too quickly, or we try to jump back into routines, our nervous system experiences that as, this is unsafe, this is stressful. And then we continue to ignore it because we're like, I got to do the things. And it's kind of like a vicious cycle. And I think particularly for Christian women, I think it can be even harder for some of the reasons that you just mentioned, Tracy. Okay, this is a blessing and I need to be grateful. And some of this over spiritualized language can get thrown in. And I think too, even your community trying to be helpful, wanting to encourage you, not knowing quite how, and using language like, well, just be grateful that they're sleeping as long as they are, or just be grateful that your baby's healthy, which makes you feel worse, which leads to continuing to shut down, right?
Yep. That shame.
That very much that feeling of, oh my gosh, I feel crazy. And then trying to voice that to somebody. And then also that because you hear the horror stories, right, of the moms that are going through the postpartum depression and then end up hurting their children, God forbid, and so you're like, if I don't want somebody to think that for a second that I could possibly do that, so you're almost like,
yes,
I don't want them to think that I'm that crazy, should I leave, can I leave you alone with a baby? Of course you can. I don't want to hurt myself and I don't want to hurt them, but I feel like I'm just slowly, I don't know. I mean, just the feeling of your skin. I mean, it was just one of those things that I remember in particular, calling husband, Andrew, and just being like, I feel crazy. I feel crazy. And he's like, you're not. It's okay. And I think too, when moms, I think the other thing is that we don't give ourselves grace for is the having babies back to back. Like,
Yeah.
I was an only child, so I have no concept of what siblings are. And so my girls are 17 months apart. And so when you're 6 months postpartum and you're pregnant again, it's like, whoa, your whole body, and you're nursing and you're trying to figure out that. And you're like, oh my gosh, I have a 6. I've never changed a diaper before my first child. Anyways, this is like a whole thing. There's so many factors that we just don't give ourselves grace for.
It's so overwhelming. And I think there's this lie that we like have to do it by ourselves in order to prove that we're doing a good job or we're a good mom. And so, we have this close age gaps and we're praised for getting out to Target the soonest with our like hobbling with our stroller and our toddler walking along. And I call it like the super mom myth of if we can celebrate that of doing it by yourself and doing it with a smile on your face and not sharing that you're struggling, that somehow earns you a badge. And I mean, it's pervasive. I think it's everywhere. How could we not believe that? But it couldn't be more detrimental. There's something you said, Tori, that I wanted to go back to about making sure that no one thinks that you're not safe with the baby if you share like how you're really doing. I find that a lot with women who experience intrusive thoughts postpartum, which happens all the time. It's so common, where they will envision themselves hurting the baby. And they're horrified by that thought. They're like, I don't want to do that. Why would my brain give me this image? And they're not knowing that it is an intrusive thought, meaning it's unwanted. They don't want it to be there. It's not a desire. Right. It's not something that they want to act upon. But they're so scared to tell someone because they're like, someone's going to take my kid from me or they're going to think I'm unfit. And so they continue to struggle with those intrusive thoughts and just feel tortured on the inside, right? For however long. And it's awful. It's awful. And that's one of the reasons why it was actually the end of 2024, still doing my counseling practice. But I was like, golly, I just wish I could meet women outside of the counseling room with some of this information, because a lot of the times I feel like I'm saying kind of the same thing. And is there a way for me to share this in a different way or in like a broader way that wouldn't be counseling, but would still be like mental health informed from a Christian perspective? And so I had a couple different iterations of like how to do that. That's one of the reasons why I created Joyful Mama Mental Wellness, which is essentially that's the mission, right? Is to reach women who are postpartum pregnant for their mental health outside of a counseling situation in like an educational and supportive way. But I was like, how can I do this? And the more that I talked to more women, the more I was like, they need the information, one. And then two, they need like the support. They need the support that is mental health informed. And then also still integrating their faith, because that's a big piece. They're not wanting to be talked out of what they believe, but they're wanting it to be brought in a way that's honoring to what's going on with their mind and their soul. And so that led me to create an online support group, which I actually just started. And it's really exciting because I can still facilitate things and bring women together so that they don't have to do it alone, so that they can hear that another mom had a wild intrusive thought too. And just having that feeling of, oh, like you've had that kind of thought. And I know you never want to hurt your baby and you're terrified by that thought. And I'm not the only one that's had an intrusive thought, and you're also a believer and you love the Lord and you believe scripture and you're still anxious, that can make anyone's shoulders drop.
Well, the thing too is I hate the idea that, just slapping a Bible verse on something and then that's, well, you just need to meditate on, Philippians 4:16, and you just need to believe more, just be still and no. And you're just like, well, great. Thank you. However, like in the moment, like, I get it. Like, believe me, I'm crying out to God all the time, but it's just like you putting a Bible verse on this does not make this situation any like more like livable in aspect. You're just like, because then now I feel like I'm questioning my faith. Like I don't believe enough and I'm not. And then you're like, okay, well now I'm even in a darker spiral because I feel like, okay, well now I'm losing my faith in all of this. And now what kind of person am I?
Yeah, like I'm like, not only am I struggling, but I'm also now a bad Christian. And I don't want to go back and share with you because I feel like I'm going to get shut down. And I think, to be fair, I think that the women that are sharing those kinds of things, I think that's what they know how to do. I think that's how they know how to encourage. And they think that's the right thing to say. And I think what I wish is that we could just normalize. You don't always have to know what to say. You don't have to be the one with the answer. Sometimes it's just being. Sometimes it's just sitting there being like, oh, that's really hard. I'm really sorry with that. Either I know what that's and that sucks, or I don't know what that's, but I can imagine how that would suck for you. And I think like when scripture is used well, it can be really encouraging. But one of the ways that I try to integrate faith into the group, and also just in my counseling practice too, is when we know the Lord, like when we know his like attributes and his character, that brings so much peace. Being close to him and knowing who he is and being reminded of who he is. And I think sometimes like cultural Christianity will kind of like do the opposite. It'll go toward the behavior of here's what you can do in the context of Christianity rather than just being like, hey, do you remember that the Lord is faithful, right? Like that is who he is. He does not know how to be loyal to anyone but himself and his plan. He's faithful. That feels a lot different and a lot more anchoring than you just need to pray more or you just need to have more faith and faith, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That is a very good point, because it puts all the pressure on you versus, and if you know God is good, like let's go through all the ways that God is good, and then none of that has anything to do with me and how I show up for today, which praise the Lord, none of that's on me. Because like, he's still going to be good. He's still going to be faithful. He's still going to be loving. I don't have to do anything for all that to happen versus like, well, maybe you should just wake up 5 minutes before you need to nurse the baby and then have your quiet time. And you're like, oh, great. Now I need to add that to my So
that's like, so true. That I know. And I think that happens a lot on social media where, again, I think it's well-intending moms are like, yes, my baby wakes up 3 times in the night, but golly, I'm still up at 5 a.m. and I'm reading my Bible and you should too. I think if that works for her, I think that's great. I think she should do that.
Right. But you're shoving it down our throats and making, and here, let's be honest. How long did it take you to take that picture of the baby just right, your Bible, your talking musk, and highlighters, and let's make sure that the verse is like perfectly focused, where you spent 20 minutes for that Instagram picture. But I love the Lord and I look at my baby. Oh my God, we are just so good together. And you're like, did you read the second paragraph on that page? Because I'm pretty sure you didn't. But yeah, that's just my own personal. Clearly, I have an issue. Like,
I hear you. It's not what was meant to be inspiring is not inspiring. It feels shameful and feels like there's a right way to spend time with the Lord. And that's the other part of it too, is like something that I've suggested to several moms that I've done myself, that I continue to do myself. Listen to scripture, play it on your phone and be driving down the road and listen to it.
That's Tori's jam.
That is my jam. I totally did the Bible recap all through last year and I listened to the entire thing. I didn't I think it is incredible. And I was just talking we have a Bible study with some of our mom friends with our daughters. And we were talking about the Bible recap and they're like, yeah, I mean, like 20 minutes a day is great. And I was like, I just don't know. I'm like, listen to it. And they're like, but then I get distracted. I'm like, doesn't matter. I can absolutely get distracted for 15 minutes and I can start thinking about the things that I need to do or whatever. But then it brings me back in for a moment, and I'm like, listening to 5 minutes is better than, since I'm just going to get distracted anyway and I need to pay attention while I'm listening, I'm just not going to do it at all because I'm going to put off time. No, just have the words in the background and just playing. I mean, right, you get so much more out of it than not doing it at all. So
absolutely. I love that. Yeah. So I'm like, let's see some more of that. Let's do some more listening to scripture, taking the pressure off for it to look a certain way. When you are in the thick of it, like you said, with the hormones and the changes, and even if things are going quote unquote well, there's not an underlying anxiety disorder or whatever, it's still freaking hard. Like it just is.
Yeah.
Why do we need to make it harder on ourselves,
What advice do you have for mamas? And this would have been me. I was not someone who I didn't have anxiety. I didn't have depression. Like I was someone that felt pretty even keel until I had kids. And you had kind of talked about it before where like all of a sudden there's that, your nervous system is heightened, there's, this could happen or that could happen. And I was someone who had 4 kids in 6 years. So for 8 years, I was either pregnant or breastfeeding. And it was just one of those where I don't know that I ever recovered from that, to be honest. And I don't know if that's why I, had Hashimoto's or why I went through menopause early. Like I don't know those answers, but it's very interesting that you're speaking to the awareness of, it just kind of shows up, because that's how it was for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I guess like the question with what advice do I have for women who didn't experience it before, but all of a sudden the onset is just really clear. I think number one is knowing that you're not broken and there's nothing like quote unquote wrong with you. And I say that with the caveat of you didn't do anything to like cause this. This is not commentary on who you are as a mom, who you are as a believer. This does happen sometimes. And I think sometimes, especially as women, we're so quick to go into fix-it mode. Well, like how can I figure out so that I can avoid? But I think part of it is like accepting, like, this is where I'm at right now. This doesn't mean this is where I'm going to be forever. This doesn't mean this is my motherhood journey, but this is where I'm at right now. And it is not only okay, it is necessary for me to get help and support right where I am, whatever that looks like. That's what makes me be able to be a great mom to my baby. Because I'll see a lot of women push off, right, their own support or their own help. I continue to like soldier on. Let me just get through the next day, because they feel like they're abandoning, their baby by asking their husband to stay with the baby later, or getting a babysitter, or asking for help. It feels really hard. It feels really bad, especially take care of yourself. You just feel like, it's not worth it. But these things rarely just get better on their own, right? And that's the hard truth, I think, that a lot of people don't want to believe, but it is. It compounds. And I'll see women sometimes who are like 2-3 years postpartum, but they still have all the symptoms of postpartum anxiety, right? As if the baby were like 6 or 7 months old.
So with okay, so that's what I was going to ask. If that's if how, like, for the mom that I'm like, look, I have a 3-year-old, or, I just sent my kid to kindergarten, but I still feel like a lot of times like the heaviness and the anxiety and the worrisome, like, and again, like, I can't, the mom that is so paranoid that, nobody else has watched their kid ever. Like that, I'm like, no, that's not how God made us, I mean, your child is supposed to be with other people too. Like it is okay. But like, so how would you, for a mom that is past that, like, I'm not nursing anymore and I'm sending my kid off to kindergarten, but I still feel some of these feelings. What would you say to her?
Yeah. I think the first thing I would say to her is like, I'm so sorry that you have been struggling with this alone for so long. That has got to have been so hard and really lonely and really awful. Because again, I think she probably doesn't have a lot of people that have met her in that space of like where she is. Watching other friends who have seemed to adapt or just have seemed to move on in their motherhood journey, and she still very much feels stuck. And probably what has happened for her is she probably did have postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression or postpartum OCD. She probably met the criteria for one of those things. And then after her body maybe physically left the postpartum period, her nervous system did not get that memo. Her nervous system was on overdrive for good reason, but it was doing its job well for too long without a break, which then probably led into like full-blown generalized anxiety disorder, some other thing here, maybe panic disorder that happens a ton, where the panic attacks start to come. And so I think the other thing I would say to her is this is also like curable. Like, we can treat this. There are things that we can do to work through this. This doesn't have to be just how it is for you, but it does take, I think, the awareness of being like, I'm not okay. And that's okay, but I'm not okay. And so I'm going to have to do some things different in order to care for myself and attune to myself. And I think what a lot of moms sometimes don't realize is that their effort is to like take care of their child and put their child, as top of priority. I'm never going to leave them with anybody else. I'm going to know everything that they consume all the time and make all their food, do all the things. But if mom's unwell, truly everyone else is going to be unwell. Like it is what it is. And what I would say to her is, I bet your baby or your child, your kindergartner would probably want a mom who has a more settled nervous system, who's calm in her spirit, over having the carrots chopped a certain way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know?
What are some things that we can do? Are there little exercises that just, I mean, on a regular basis that even as, Tracy and I are well past the postpartum age or stage, but like things to calm the nervous system on a rate, like when we're starting to feel that anxiety and that, because there are days that we're just wanting to pull our hair out, when you've got four kids sick at home or whatever, or if it's a snow day and you've got kids home, they're like, I need you to go to school. What are some ways that we can just kind of help reset our nervous system, if anything, just for a moment?
Yes, that's a great question. It's going to be a lot more simple than you would think. So a lot of the times, like people will pull out these really cool sound, like sexy sounding mental health tools, right? But I'm like, when someone is in fight or flight, they don't have time for that. They don't have time to think through all the steps and all the things. They don't do that thing and they end up losing their mind, right?
Yeah.
So one of my favorite go-tos is placing your hand wherever you're feeling tension on your body. You feel like your chest is tight, you feel like your shoulders are up to your ears, if you feel like your back is super tight, place your hand wherever that is and just wait for something to shift and settle. It could be like the weight of your hand, feeling like kind of like the warmth, like, okay, that feels a little different. You could be noticing your shoulders are dropping just a tad bit. That means you've taken one step closer. Then you start with deep breathing in through your nose. Hold it, slowly let it out through your mouth. I would do that 2-3 times. And then if you feel like you can go a little bit further, breathe in for 4, hold it, out for 8.
Okay.
If you still feel like you are on the verge of losing it or still need a minute, you can go into the bathroom, splash some cold water on your face, gently tap it with a towel lightly. And I say lightly because sometimes when you're in that state, you're like, it's like rocking. Don't do that.
Pulling it on yourself. Yes.
Not helpful. Splash some cold water on your face very gently, dab with a paper towel, go back to the breathing, and then come back. That basically tells your body and your animal brain in the back, I'm safe. There's no emergency. There's no tiger chasing me. I'm probably stressed. I'm probably a little burnt out. What do I need actually? Am I hungry? Am I tired? Do I need like a talking break? Do I need everybody to stop talking for 5 minutes so I can like kind of center myself? But a lot of times people will start with those kind of things, but their body's so dysregulated, they're not a space to receive it. So hand gently over your tension, deep breathing, cold water, then drink through what you need.
I love all those. I do a lot of those with my kids. I have a couple that have anxiety, and I was actually teaching yesterday. One of my daughter and her friend was in the car, and they'd been playing basketball, and she was like, coughing, and because she'd been sick, and I was like, you need to calm down, and she's like, it's hard to take deep breaths, and and I was like, okay, so we do the one where we take your 3 fingers on your wrist, and then you drop to the bottom one, and then you do it in circles. And within like 10 to 30 seconds, you're yawning. In that one, so she doesn't think about her breathing because she was having a coughing fit. So it worked. And so then her and her friend were doing them. And then I was like one through the other one. And I was like, well, you got your butterfly hugs. And all, and so we were doing them yesterday. I was like, it was funny that you asked that question, Tori, because I was like, just doing it yesterday.
I love that. Those are calming for you too. Like the butterfly hugs, they're meant for kids. But I mean, gosh, it's the same thing, right? When I talk about putting your hand where you have the tension, it's the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
For my daughter, and that was one thing that she had gone through, was the tap on the one hand and then tap on the other hand. And because she has OCD, it's to get the brain going all the way over and not just to the middle and keep looping on the one side. And so that was just to like go back and forth. And so that was something that we did years ago, and we would put like a bean bag and then we throw it, I got all those tricks. Now I just need to use them all the time.
You need to start using them, Tracy.
I do, actually. I do use them.
Amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
Awesome. Well, I think this is so incredibly helpful. Just one, if anything, to remind moms they're not crazy and they're not alone. And each part of this journey, God is with you. And that there is help available, but also there's a community available too. I mean, it's just a matter of you have to acknowledge it first and go, I'm not okay. And that's okay. but now I need to address it and get some help somewhere. And again, maybe it's something small to begin with, but like having a community like yours or finding a telehealth appointment to somebody to talk. Yeah. These are all totally normal things. And, anxiety, like you said, we've got to quit normalizing it. That's just the way things are. And, you just feel like your entire world, like once you have a kid, like you just feel like your entire heart's been ripped out of your chest and now on your sleep. You know what I mean? And good luck, because the whole world, you're just going to feel that raw all the time. No, you're not. That is not true. So I just, but again, moms don't talk about it because it's that weird, like, oh, I'm not enjoying the stage. Do I tell anybody that? Or
yes. Yeah. And the worst is when you hear that a mom you're like, how are you doing? She's like, oh, great. Things are great. Whether she is or not, whether she's lying or not. Just hearing that, it doesn't really invite vulnerability, right? From the other end.
Exactly. Yes.
Now, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and that goes on with just anything around like, oh, are you breastfeeding? Oh, formula. Or, and that's been going on for a century, probably. I don't know. Maybe not a century. A few decades.
Long time.
Yeah. But it's true. It's like the competition in it. And you're like, no, if you're formula feeding, great. And I can still be struggling breastfeeding, great. The conversations just, you're uncomfortable sometimes and they shouldn't be. It should be an open, safe place to talk about it.
And can we just also peek behind the curtains here and tell every mom that whatever you ask how long it took longer than you think it did. And for example, when a mom says, oh, my baby's sleeping 10 hours through the night. No, they're not. Okay. They're probably sleeping about 7.5. And that mom is rounding up to 10. Okay. Don't feel bad. And she's not actually getting 10 minutes. Also, when you're like, oh my God, but how was your labor? Oh, mine was I had to push for 24 hours. Oh, I had to go for 48. No, she didn't. Okay. She's probably counting all of the other times in the hospital. No, take about half of it off. And, you're fine. It wasn't as long as that, So just know that's the comparison thing that it drives me nuts. I'm like, you're there. Or my baby started walking at 7 months. No, they didn't. No, we're just a genius prodigy. No, you're not.
You're going to get videos of babies walking at 7 months.
Mine did.
Well, okay. And then I'm going to go, AI. That's AI. And I'm just, whatever.
Tori, I think I don't know why they'll do this, but I think one of the reasons why moms feel the need to exaggerate sometimes is because they want the validation and how they feel. There's this fear that there's going to be this mismatch, and it just felt really hard. But I guess, it wasn't as extreme as you had it. And that's another reason why I think moms struggle to seek support is because they're like, well, she had a crazy traumatic birth. Mine was only mildly traumatic. Or, her breastfeeding journey was awful. And mine was just, borderline terrible. And there's this constant measuring stick. And so I do wonder if part of it is I so want to validate why I feel the way I do that I'm going to add on a couple things here, not intentionally trying to lie, but want to justify it.
Justify it. And where they're just making it sound bad, because I'm suffering through this. It's worth it that my baby is walking now at 7 months. And they're like, oh, it doesn't matter. And I look back as, a mom of a 11-year-old and a 12-year-old now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll just the comparison of just worrying about if my baby's doing this in the right amount of time or whatever, it steals all the little moments, oh, well, they didn't turn over fast enough and they didn't crawl at this much because you're so worried about that milestone. And again, having the baby that sleeps through the night. Oh, well, she started sleeping through the months at 6 weeks. You're like, okay, shut up. You know what I mean?
She's not better at all.
Yeah. And she only sleeps through the night once every 4 days. So really, let's not even count that. But I just don't let those moments steal the joy from those moments, because you start to panic and worry, my baby's not doing all the things, or I'm not doing enough in the, we're not doing tummy.
I was going to say, I think it goes back to the mom's feelings of not doing enough or not being enough or not. Yeah. I think it's really that more or less than worrying about the child's milestones. It's get him up, spend
Right,
enough
'cause your
time
kids'
sitting with them on the tripod, and they
Yes, your kids
Right.
achieve. You attach yourself to your
Mhm.
kids' achievements, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but
Mhm.
it's just a
And that's
matter of
fueled
like,
by the anxiety.
yeah,
Mhm.
all goes back.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
anyways, well, thank you so much, Emma, for this lovely conversation. It's certainly brought some memories to my mind of all of the
Some good and some bad.
I'm good to not.
crying in the bathroom, on the floor. Like, oh my God, is this it?
No,
Not
not alone in that.
not those moments. Or my favorite is holding the towel when you're breastfeeding for the first time because in your mouth because it hurts so bad. Nobody tells you how bad nursing hurts in the beginning.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, just
It's
those
terrible.
moments. So, but I hope this encourages the moms listening, or just know that, like, okay, at least I'm not her. So you're welcome. But so amazing. But where can our listeners find you, Emma, if they want to share your information or seek out your support group? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram at Joyful Mama Mental Wellness, also on TikTok, same handle. And then there's a link on Instagram that has more information about the support group and how to join it. It's completely virtual, so anyone, anywhere can join. We meet twice a month for the live group calls. We have weekly reflections that I send out that you can read at your own pace. And then there's a growing library of on-demand videos, really short videos, similar to what we talked through today for practical coping skills that moms can use when they feel like they have the margin to consume that. Because that's the other hard part is sometimes like you need the tool, but you just don't have the bandwidth to absorb it. So that way it just lives there and they can always access it when they need it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate it. And then until next time, housewives.
Bye. Bye. Thanks, guys.
Whether we made you laugh or cry today, we pray you feel appreciated, bolder and braver than yesterday, stronger and more faithful for tomorrow, and living in who you were made to be today.
Join our online community on Facebook, link in the show notes, and be sure to review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you enjoy listening. Until next time, housewives, we give you permission to walk confidently, free, and to be intentional in your slippers or stilettos.